got stories, cold ones, berry ones. And now here truth don't sleep. I seen good men lose their way. Killers turn to ghosts, injustice. Take too long to answer the call. But this
is 12 gauge James.
Where every case pleads true.
Every file got a heartbeat.
And every cold trail still got smoke rising.
We talking about living fast, dying young, but fighting to live right now.
Cause legends don't fade. They echo through the evidence, through the crime scenes, through every voice that never got heard. This ain't entertainment, it's real life reloaded.
Faces on paper, curled at the edges, names said once and swallowed by time. Rooms went quiet, streets moved on. Something about this never died. Cold hands on cold files, dust where the truth should be. Every lie leaves a footprint, every monster bleeds eventually. For the missing that never came home, for the cases they tried to forget, for the killers counting days in the dark, thinking they're done with that. We keep digging, keep the light on.
All right. How is everyone doing on this? What day is it? Saturday? You know, being on vacation, lost track of the days, lost track of the time. But it is Saturday. I hope everybody's doing well. My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. You know, today I'm going to do a lighthearted kind of live because, you know, I put this case to bed. But I've been posting some shorts that, you know, I wanted to show some of the stuff that's going on at TikTok because I've been watching a lot more TikTok than YouTube lately because it seems like there's a lot more creators over there that have different opinions on the case. By no means am I doing the guilt or innocent thing tonight. I am merely just going to talk about what they have to say, and we'll go from there. I hope everybody had a good holiday. I hope everybody had family, friends, loved ones, whatever, that everything went well. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about this case anymore or not. I don't blame you, but you know, sometimes it does give a little comic relief on some of the stuff that you hear. And who knows? You might hear something that really might change your mind. Let's start with this person right here. Her name is Riley Lou News. Let's see what she got to say.
All right, here we go again. She says, why is the popcorn bag from Dylan inside of the DoorDash bag from Xana? Assuming this actually is a popcorn bag, which it hasn't been specified anywhere what it actually is, but let's say it is. The running theory is that Xana got up to throw away her trash. It would make complete sense if she saw that along the way on the counter or something and just grabbed the trash and put it in her bag. Everything in this bag is trash. It is empty. That makes sense.
I mean, do we really believe that she got up and threw the trash away and then got unalived or killed or whatever you want to say? I don't know. I mean, I've read the documents, I've seen the videos, I've seen the documentaries, I've gone through all that stuff. And it's always interesting to hear other people's perspective. Let's see.
sense. She says, okay, if that's the case, then why would Xana's french fries be on the microwave? Again, it would make complete sense that she was carrying this because she was still eating it. There's still french fries in there and throwing away the rest of the bag. Maybe she was even going to reheat them. Maybe she was going to get a drink or ketchup. She sees the sliding glass door open and she never got to eat her fries. There are so many different situations, scenarios, theories that make 1,000 times more sense than, oh, Dylan had something to do with this and she put her popcorn bag inside of Xana's bag. Then the pictures of the bathroom are brought up. Why in this picture are there clothes on the floor, and then in another picture, the clothes aren't there? So let's think. What makes the most sense? Local.
I remember talking about that very briefly. I mean, there's multitudes of people that were talking about there was clothes on the floor, and then bam, you took another picture, the clothes were gone. What could have been the outcome of those clothes being gone? Let's see what she has to say.
Local, state, and FBI all are coordinating together to cover up something, or that police take pictures of the crime scene at different stages of the investigation. It's very clear that one of the pictures is taken immediately when they arrive on the crime scene. Then pictures in detail are taken of any blood or evidence that they might have found. Then later on, evidence, clothes, everything is collected to be analyzed, and they take pictures after all that stuff is picked up again. That's basically.
I mean, could that have been probable? I mean, if you're going to look at this, anything probable, because you really don't know other than seeing a video, seeing a picture. We all have a million thoughts on exactly what all went down. I don't really think anything nefarious was going on in this bathroom other than there was some stuff on the floor.
Basic protocol. Again, what makes the most sense? Basic protocol is being followed, or that local, state, and FBI have all agreed to this massive cover-up. There might be parts of this investigation that don't make sense to you or that you might question, and that's okay. But also, you aren't an expert. You don't have all the information. You don't have all of the evidence. You guys are questioning the wrong stuff. All of this makes sense. All of it is easily explainable with evidence to back it up. All right, here we go again. She says,
okay, now let's look at another one. Like I said, I'm going to look at multitudes of these because they're all interesting. I mean, I'm not going to speak one way or the other. I'm just going to kind of go along with the video and see exactly what direction they're trying to go.
This is the new Idaho 4 footage that just dropped. And the first thing you'll notice is that it's completely muted. No audio. Key moments blurred, sections redacted. So the question is, why? If there's nothing to hide, why remove the sound? Why release footage that feels intentionally incomplete? We're told transparency is happening, but transparency doesn't look like this. Watch closely, not just for what you see, but for what you don't hear.
I mean, I want to ask you right off the bat, is there any reason why there's no sound on this? Like I said, I haven't been keeping up with this, so I don't have a clue if there is a reason why there's no sound on this video, or if there is supposed to be sound and there wasn't sound. I don't know. But let's listen what this woman has to say. Where'd it go? Okay, there's no sound, nothing playing. I don't know what we're supposed to be saying. 101.52. Oh, there's somebody walking. I do want to ask you guys something though, and this is just being forthright, okay? Hey, Walt. Hey, PKC. Thank y'all for being here. I do want to ask you this, just being forthright. Is there a possibility that on that night in question, there was other people in that vicinity of the cameras or in the vicinities of 1122 King Road? Could there have been people in those other apartments, other areas, houses, with the same names as what we've heard at the Idaho 4 victim that perished? I mean, think about it. How many Jacks in the very beginning were mentioned? in the very beginning, Jack D, Jackass, Jake, blah, 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 and the list goes on and on. And, I'm sure there's more than one Ethan there. I'm sure there, we know two Hunters, Hunter Johnson and Hunter Chapin. I mean, what are the odds of people having the same names that could have been in other houses that the names were being screamed out? I mean, I'm just saying, is there a possibility that some of the names that people hear or see could be other people's names being screamed out instead of the Idaho 4? Let's see what this one is. Just police corruption is becoming a pandemic. Oh, that is too small for me to read, even when my eyeballs are on.
Hi, I wanted to get my story out here about corruption in Boise, Idaho from the Idaho State Police. They have altered, they have destroyed evidence, they have protected the brother in blue. I've been fighting corruption since 2011. I was supposed to have my trial on October 18th, 2021, but thanks to COVID, I cannot. So I want to expose the corruption from our Idaho State Police.
Okay. And I've heard that multitude of times throughout the case. I've heard that police is corrupt. Police bumbled the case. They did a terrible job at it. They may have contaminated the investigation, things like that. But once again, without evidence of that theory, it's kind of hard to go along that lines. I mean, I'm open-minded to a lot of different things, but if you don't have evidence, I'm talking about substantial evidence. I'm talking about possible photos, possible videos, possible whistleblowers. I mean, any of that stuff could be possible,
So if you could please go to Justice for Barry and read my story, and I'll keep updating more. And I'm not a cop hater. I do back the brother in blue, but I do not back corruption. And people need to know about what is going on with the Idaho State Police.
Okay. And I did a video last night on some cops that treated this DUI person really, really crappy. I did not approve of the way that they treated her from jump. So I'm not trying to say that there's not a possibility, but for every good cop, there's a bad cop. Does it happen? Of course it does. But did it happen? One day we'll know or we won't. You know what I mean? That's the basis. Let's see what this lady got to say.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Colbert in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania.
These are 3 easy ways to know if they're lying to you. I got this from an ex-CIA agent. His name is Jason Hansen, I believe. It's very effective, so pay attention. Number 1 is called the first 3-second rule. And basically what it comes down to is this. Watch the person's response and reaction within the first 3 seconds of the question you ask. When someone's being honest, they're pretty forthright, and it's kind of easy for them to come up with an answer. Now, if they freeze or they take their time, this is their brain kind of trying to think of a response that's feasible. People who are being honest with you don't really have to spend so much time to think about a response.
Well, that's true. That is very good information right there, because that is true. If somebody is being truly honest with you, when they're asked the question, they don't spend a lot of time going over it in their head, trying to formulate an answer. They they pretty much are right on point with what they're going to say.
Number two is watch their face and body language. See, human beings are used to telling lies with their mouths, but not with their bodies. So, for example, you might ask someone a question and they may say yes, but their head is nodding in the opposite direction.
Right.
That's a telltale sign. Whenever the words don't match the body, always go with the body. That's usually the truth. Number three, I would say, is the longer the response time, this is also a clear indication that you're being lied to. Or the longer the response, right? So not just the time, but if you ask someone a straightforward question and they ramble on and on and on, this is because they're trying to justify their answer.
And that's a good perception right there, because you know what? We've seen many interrogations where people just go on and on and on. They rehash the story. They're intervening multitudes of their own version of what they're telling. And there's been, interviews that were documented on video of the surviving roommates and the friends of the Idaho Four. And many people will feel that those people are lying. Whether they were or whether they weren't, one day we'll know, right?
They're likely being dishonest. Peace.
Okay, let's move on to another one. Let's see. Let's see what this lady had to say.
Murders, that raises a lot more questions. Let's dive in. Now, I'm not going to be showing all of the photos. Some of them are just very generic, just actual photos of the home itself. But let's take a deeper look into the photos that we honestly have never seen before. So in this photo, this is Xana's room. As you can see here, there's a DoorDash bag and a Coors Light box that is covered in blood. You also see up near this arrow a lot of cast off. And this blurred out image here, that is Xana. Now, this chair here has been a hot topic of discussion ever since Bill Thompson said they believed that Brian Koberger may have sat down in it after attacking Xana and Ethan. Now, this hasn't been confirmed yet.
As you can tell on TikTok, they're a lot more descriptive, and they're not scared to talk about different things. Like this lady is obviously talking about what we've talked about multitudes of times. And we're going to get into some more conspiracy stuff, but this is just some of the stuff that I've noticed, and I'm like, man, this is different. It's a different approach. It's a different presentation.
But they do believe that based off of the blood evidence in and around the chair, and some, myself included, believe if he did sit down, it was to take off potential shoe coverings, shirt, and things and put them in that container that Dylan saw him carrying. Now, this brings me to another photo.
There's not enough people in chat for me to ask this, but if there's some people in chat right now, after everything that you've seen in these 3 years and some change, do you believe that he sat down in that chair? We heard that he did, but do you believe that he did? Do you believe that there was some cast off that had multitudes of blood, DNA on the wall? Not only his, but certain things. Okay, we have an answer here. She is wrong. Dateline suggested that he sat in a chair. Thompson said they had no reason to believe that, and he don't know. Okay, who? Yeah, what Dateline, wasn't it? Okay. I mean, that's another thing that these individuals sometimes they don't get their story aligned with who said what, how it was said. I've done it. Multitudes of people do it. And how they came up with it. Sorry, the wrong button. You're right. But do you believe that he did sit in that chair? Let me know.
That I have a lot of questions about the stairs. So these are the stairs that lead up to Kaylee and Maddie's room. Now, murders, that raises a lot more questions. Let's dive in. Now, I'm not going to be showing.
Okay, I have a question on the stairs because I saw something I saw something that said that the knife was left on the top of the stairs and then picked up and then put on the table. I don't know how that correlates any kind of involvement, but I heard a lot of people talking about this. Glenn, you said it was said somewhere that it was Ethan that sat on the child on the chair while being tortured. Thank you for putting that because I've heard just very basic stuff about the chair. Um, I heard that Brian could have been the one sitting in the chair. Let's see what this one says.
He didn't do it. At least that's what I thought for a very, very, very long time. And I keep putting in my comments that I have my own theory on this case and that it actually might surprise you the way I feel. So this is my theory. So let's start with BK. Again, if I was on the jury, I would not convict him because of all of the circumstantial evidence. I could not provide a guilty verdict. However, I do think.
And I said that very early on, and I've always said that. And I don't know why people assume that I'm one sided or the other, even though I do go along with what eventually happened. I mean, that's just who I am. I mean, but I've said that at one point that there was a lot of circumstantial evidence and it was going to be difficult to convict other than the circumstantial evidence. So the circumstantial evidence was enough to get a conviction, but there was, I had always stuck to that and I've never really deviated from that.
Think that he was there. Do I think he did it? No. But do I think he was present? Yes. Now, if I'm wrong on anything, please correct me in the comments. But when I say correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not saying correct me if I'm wrong on my opinion. I'm saying correct me if I'm factually wrong. So now, we don't know a motive, right? The motive has yet to been released. I don't even think they have a motive. But I think BK was some type of lookout. I think he was outside in the car. He was looking out to see what was going on. And I think he heard the screaming. And that's when he went into the house. If what Dylan said is.
So she just said he believes he was outside in the car and he heard the screaming. That puts him at the crime scene. I mean, that's what is so terrible about all this because I've always thought in different ways as well. I've always thought, okay, if he wasn't the perp and he was there to watch somebody else do it, he still was in the home. He still was in the home. You know what I mean? Based on what she's saying, he still was in the home. He would have been in the area. He would have been culpable because his stuff was found in the home. And that's what makes it so tragic a lot of times.
Is true. And somebody, in fact, did say, don't worry, I'm here to help you. In my opinion, I think that was BK going into the house after he heard what was going on. But we all know Dylan, she can't be trusted. So who knows if that even happened. Now, moving on to the roommates.
Okay, she believed that he would have been the one that went in and said, it's okay, I'm going to help you. So, if she believes that he's able to go into the residence after a murder has happened, what would cause anybody to visually see bloody people everywhere, at least on that second floor? Okay, I don't know if he went up to the third floor, if based on her theory, but if he went up to the second floor and saw bloody people and actually saw that crime scene, I don't know about you, but I'm getting the fuck out of there. I am getting the, excuse my language, but I'm getting the fuck out of there. I'm getting out of there. There's no way. I've already put my footprints in here. I've already put the potential DNA shedding and all this other stuff of my being into this residence. They're dead people. and there's nobody here other than me that I see, I'm out. You get what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man. Come on. Why would you stick around based on her theory? And that's what I'm asking. I wish she was here to ask that.
Talk about Bethany often. I don't know enough about really her stories and all. In my opinion, Bethany's an ally because she was supposed to testify for the defense. If Bethany did not know something that would not exonerate BK, they would not have wanted her to testify. So she knows something, and she knows something that could help BK. Miss Dillon, she knew something. I don't think she knew the extent of what was going to transpire in that house, but she knew something was going to happen, and you cannot tell me different. And that's why she felt safe enough to leave her.
Okay, those kind of statements right there, she knew something was going to happen. You can't tell me anything different. Well, what makes you believe that? I mean, what kind of thought pattern in your head makes you believe that Dylan knew something was going to happen? How would you know? How would you know? And that's what I've always asked people is when you make these blanket statements, you're allowed to make them. Just elaborate on your thought process. Don't just say you can't convince me otherwise without giving the rest of the story because it's like, okay, you can't tell me any different. Okay, what made you believe that Dylan knew what was going to happen?
Room and go down to Bethany because she knew that she was safe. She knew that she was not the target and nothing was going to happen to her. Now, how BK got roped into all this, I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out, but I strongly do think that he was like a lookout. And I really do think that he was the one that said, don't worry, I'm here to help you. And I have said that since day one when I started putting these pieces together. And even with like all the documents and stuff that I've been reading, I really do think that he was set up in a way. I really don't think he knew what he was getting himself into either. And yes, I understand that he did plead guilty. However, I don't think he really had a choice, to be honest. I mean, he's got to save himself. Like, these families deserve answers. They deserve to have the correct people behind bars and all of the people involved behind bars. This case for me is so far not over with. I feel
Okay. We'll go with what you're saying. Here's another one.
Since I have apparently now made it my personal mission to call out these people who are blatantly lying to you about the Idaho 4 case. Here we go.
And I am no conspiracy theorist, so the people that are putting that crap out there, miss me with it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Oh, you're not? Oh, you're not. Do you know what the definition of a conspiracy theorist is? Because if you were to look it up in the dictionary, your photo would literally be right next to it, along with the other ones. Okay? Because the tangents that I have seen you go on.
I actually contacted this person on TikTok, and we're going to collab hopefully one day on YouTube. She is a defense attorney. And we're going to talk about some of this stuff. And I'd like to hear her thoughts on it because I pinned one of her videos on my shorts and she had a lot to really say about it. Let's see what she says here.
And the reaches I have seen you make. You might as well say that the Miami Mall aliens committed the Idaho 4 murders at this point. The aliens in the damn ocean, the ones that were controlling the drones that were flying over my house earlier this year, committed the Idaho 4 murders. Okay? Because that's how far your conspiracy theories reach. Okay? Ruggs had nothing to do with the Idaho 4 murders. Absolutely nothing. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever, no matter how far your mind stretches, that would leave any reasonable person to believe that to be true. Now, I'm going to just take time to debunk one of the things you said in your video because I was the one who personally debunked this when this first came out. And I take a personal affront to the fact that it's being brought up again because it is 100% not accurate and not true. And I was the one who made up sure everybody knew that it wasn't true when this first came out.
It amazes me how many people don't know or didn't know that Ann Taylor was Xana's mother's attorney before she was Brian Koberger's.
And we've heard that one. We've heard that multitudes of time when the case first was hitting off pretty heavy. That was a big deal. Conflict of interest. There's no way that she could be Kara's attorney and Brian's attorney at the same time. And she's about to tell you how she debunked this.
She literally was representing Xana's mother on rug charges and had.
No, she wasn't. No, she wasn't. And if you listen to Kara's interview, her and Ann Taylor never met. In fact, in the affirmation filed by Ann Taylor with the court, Ann Taylor affirms to the court as an officer of the court under penalty of perjury that her and Kara never met. Not one time. Not one time. And the reason that her name appears on the documents is because she was the head public defender of the office. So when I file motions, for instance, in my office, I file them under the head public defender's name of my office.
Did you hear what she just said? Whenever she files a motion, she files it under the head prosecutor in her office. Same thing happened back then, you know? This is pretty cool. Her name's
and then my name goes beneath it. But they're filed under the name of the head public defender of my office. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It says her name by my name. They never met. They never talked about the case. They never saw each other. Ann Taylor never appeared on the case. And the only reason her name appeared on any of the documents is because she was the head public defender of that office, which is an incredible feat for a woman, by the way. I just want to point that out. My office is headed by a woman as well, but that's not very common. It's not very common. Okay. So if you're going to speak about Ann Taylor, okay, a fellow public defender, please make sure you come correct, because I will defend her no matter what. Okay. Because she did nothing wrong there. And that's not something to add to your conspiracy, because it's just factually not true. Literally factually not true. There is actual factual court evidence from both Kara, from Ann Taylor, and from the court in their finding, in the making and determination of whether or not it was a conflict for her to represent Brian Koberger, that none of that was actually true. It was just something that the media ran with misinformation.
And do you believe, since we're looking back on this, do you believe that a lot of the media got it wrong? Do you believe that that's where we got most of our information? Or do you believe that we got a lot of the information on YouTube? Do you believe that there was a lot of information on YouTube that may have not been correct, that people ran with, that maybe convoluted the waters in this case? Do you think so? Or do you really have that thought pattern that maybe people really believe what they hear?
So if you want to not be called a conspiracy theorist, then perhaps, maybe you should speak in actual facts when you're trying to analyze things through your perspective. Okay? So actually speak with facts when you're analyzing the case. It's just a suggestion. You don't have to do it. You haven't been doing it this whole time, but that one is factually inaccurate and factually not true and provable to be false. And it really grinds my gears, because ain't nobody going to talk bad about a public defender to me. I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm not going to listen to it. It's just not going to be it. It's just not going to be it. So please choose your words better. And if you don't want people calling you a conspiracy theorist, don't act like a conspiracy theorist.
Her name is Stephanie. Here's another person. Let's hear what she has to say.
This is going to be an extremely crazy theory. This is going to need you to put your super thick tinfoil hat on. And if you don't wear a tinfoil hat, you're going to need to scroll past this video because I don't want your negative comments, okay? This is just a theory. What if BK was so obsessed with the study of people being wrongfully convicted, innocent people being wrongfully convicted? That is what all those books are found in his place were about. So what if he went to the dark web and he looked for people to do this crime and he hired them and he set all this up solely so that he could complete this study? Okay. What if he said, make sure you drive a car that looks like mine? What if he said, here's this sheath with my touch DNA on it that could have been transferred from a simple handshake, but it would get me there in the crime scene? What if he said, I'm going to make sure that I travel around the neighborhood so that it looks like my phone data was there in the neighborhood, like I was stalking them or something? I'm going to give plenty of circumstantial evidence that they can convict me on. I don't know. What if he paid someone?
Okay. Based on her what if, what would make you plead out based on what ifs? I mean, what would make him say, okay, I'm going to plead out? Let's see this one.
What really happened in Moscow, Idaho? 4 college students found dead on November 13th, 2022, the so-called Idaho 4. But some think it was a psyop. Reason 1 at the time. The murders dominated headlines right as midterm elections.
Shadows remain. The lion is stirring. You can't.
Haley's face has not been photo guarded, but it's not exactly her face either. Okay.
Cannot be chained. The hush of the ages.
Winston Sapling and Copylinks think so. Almost looked like a hand on her shoulder. I don't know. That doesn't look like Kaylee, but you know. There's a lot of stuff that happened to these photographs and these trying to get some kind of understanding. Let's see what this lady has to say.
New surveillance footage from the King Road house. The camera is right here. There's the King Road house. This new footage runs from 2:25 a.m. to 3:35 a.m. And this footage proves a lot of people liars. Obviously, there's an entire hour of footage, so I can't play the whole thing for you here. But I want to give you all a quick rundown of the notes that I took, what I heard from this. And I got a few pictures for you, and I also got a few video clips, because this proves that what happened in this house is not what they say it is. And y'all tell me if you think that this is a house where everyone was asleep and no men were present, because Xana and Ethan weren't supposed to be home either. Just a couple of girls there eating grub truck food before they went to bed. Seriously, tell me at the end if you think that. The feed begins at 2:25. Immediately, you can hear male voices, yelling, talking loudly, multiple male voices, could be yelling or singing. These are literally the notes that I took as I was listening to this. So they're very disjointed.
Okay, I think this is the one that everybody's been talking about. I've heard this one. I've seen this one. I also have seen where people believe that this is 1122 over here. It's not. This is the 1112. The camera's facing a different way from 1122. So let's hear what kind of voices they hear. We've heard it, but how could it be coming from 1122? If the dog bark was so clear, wouldn't these voices have been clear if they were, I don't know. Here, let's hear it.
They're literally notes. At 2:26:09, a vehicle comes in. It appears to me to be a black SUV. At nearly the exact time, yelling picks back up. There's at least 3 different voices. There is one male voice that comes clearer than others. Sounds like he's throwing F word at 2:27:01. Tone is almost taunting ? Then there is a crazy high-pitched scream at 2:27:14. And then you hear some like oohs and then the scream. I have a clip of this one for you.
Okay. Here's my thought on this. I've talked to Jeff a little bit on this, and we've had conversations off camera. Here's my thought on this. If you remember the 417, you hear the thud, you hear the whimpering. Wouldn't the whimpering have been a lot more clear to be able to hear just as loud as you're hearing these voices if it was coming from the 1122? I mean, to hear the thud, wouldn't that have been a lot more clear if it was as loud as these voices are? I mean, it makes me wonder. I mean, I'm just asking. I'm just asking for the peanut gallery. No other reason.
At 2
Because you see how clear that was, right? And I know many people have heard this video over and over. I even enhanced the sound louder on one of my shorts, I believe. But think about that a minute. At 417, you hear the thud, you hear the whimpering. Would that not have been louder and more clear if these voices, the same voices we're hearing, if these came from the same place at the 1122, would that sound not have been clearer, just like these voices? Because they're pretty clear. Are they not? What do you think, chat? Do you think I'm just barking up the wrong tree, or what do you think? I mean, that's just my thinking. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like a lot of loud noise. That's what it sounds like. I believe that if a murder was happening, I believe the whole neighborhood would have heard that scream.
2740, that main voice, which you should have been able to pick out, is yelling again. And I'm pretty sure either loud crying or quieter screams is happening too. Around 228, it gets quiet. At 229, there's some noise, but it's a lot quieter, like it's deeper in the house. At 229:12, a vehicle comes out. I'm not sure if this is that same SUV that went in, but it slows and comes to a stop for just a second before leaving. So we got a pretty clear shot of it. By 229:29, the vehicle is gone. At 2:30.
And one thing that I've always said, and no disrespect to these creators who work hard, making these videos and stuff, we have to remember, when we're looking at videos and we're looking at photos and we're looking at, surveillance cameras, we have to remember that not every vehicle that we see have anything to do with what happened at the crime scene. What real evidence, if you're really looking at this through a analytical, investigative mindset, what evidence does that vehicle give you? Just like you say, the Elantra that you saw doesn't prove that that's Brian's, but you're putting all these other vehicles and everything else around the 1122 house as potentially being suspect. So if the Elantra wasn't suspicious, it was just driving around, it wasn't really doing anything substantial, what gives you the mindset that this vehicle right here, this SUV that's obviously went in and went out, has anything to do with anything nefarious in the neighborhood? Just a question.
There are muffled voices here and there. And at 2:30:46, there's this beep beep noise. It almost sounds like a car locking, like when you press your button and your car goes beep beep. Then going up to 2:32, it's all pretty quiet. But then at 2:32:49, there is a raised female voice, but it kind of sounds distant or muffled. And at 2:32:55, the distinct male voice comes back. And at that point, you could make out a few words. Like at one point, I think I hear where or what the fuck. And at one point, I can hear him say, "God damn." I have a clip of that for you too.
Hold on. Before we play this, do you remember the next morning when there's one guy coming to the door, there's a female in the doorway, and there's another female standing outside on the patio with the police officer? There's 2 women, 1 male. So her hearing a male voice coming out of that residence, would that really be that much of a shocker? Would her hearing 2 female voices coming out of that residence, seeing they probably lived there, right? And they were partying or having a gathering. It doesn't even have to be a party. It could just be a bunch of friends gathering together, doing whatever they do, playing video games, playing board games, whatever, you know? And let's see what one of the chatters said. Didn't Aditi say she made multiple deliveries to that area? She probably isn't the only DD. There's also hunting and fishing season. Other vehicles could be anything other than circling like a shark. Well, I mean, if I lived in that area, chances are my vehicle would be caught on camera coming and going. And chances are they cross-check these vehicles off and we're able to say this vehicle has nothing to do with the crime. The one vehicle that they did see at 423 heading out in a high rate of speed, and this one was not going at a high rate of speed, I would be more on the app to say, they probably didn't have anything to do with it. If you're going to say the one at 423 didn't have anything to do with it, okay, none of the vehicles in that area during that time set had anything to do with it. But you can't pick and choose which ones you want to be assimilated with the crime and which ones you want to, delete from everybody's mindset. Let's see what the person had to say.
After all that, at 2:33:36, you can still hear that voice, but it sounds further away. But to me, it definitely sounds like he's yelling at someone. Then at 2:34, it gets real quiet. But at 2:36:09, a car pulls straight. There it is. It doesn't turn like it's going towards the King Road house. It goes straight. Around the same time, some indistinct voices pick up. So I'm thinking it might be the people that got out of this car. Then the car.
So anybody that's ever drank or partied, maybe got an Uber, the bars close at 1:30, you hit up some food on your way home, you're coming home to the location. Why would that be far-fetched? That could be an Uber, that could be some friend dropping off drunk friends, or it could even be a DoorDash delivery driver. Who knows? Do you believe that this person had anything to do with the crimes, or do you believe that this was one of the potential perps?
Comes back at 2:36:47, and I think it probably dropped somebody off. Then it like backs up into the street and then turns and leaves. But I do want to know, if we're leaving the King Road house, this is straight across. If they're going straight, would that be Jack D's apartment building? Just curious. At 2:37:30, I'm pretty sure I heard what is the slider door opening, because then you can hear voices more clearly for just a second. Then it gets pretty quiet again until 2:38:10. I think it's a girl screaming, and it almost comes out of nowhere. I got a clip for you.
Okay, 2:36, 2:37. Wasn't that the time that they were texting or calling Jack D? Wasn't that the time? Yeah, I like that, Gator Bait. Thank you for saying that. Why are people obsessed with the 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock hour? We have phone activity from all the victims after that point, so they know we know that we're still alive. I like that comment. Thank you. Yes, weren't they texting Jack at that time? All the way to 2:56, I believe. So could they have been screaming? I doubt it. I don't know. Who knows what those sounds are? I mean, could it have been wind? Could it have been partiers? Could it have been loud ass neighbors? Who knows?
To me, that sounds like multiple girls screaming. Then it's quiet again. Muffled voices, some high-pitched voices, girls. It's very faint though. At 2:39:16, there's what sounds like a thud, and some muffled voices continue. But then at 2:40:20, there is definitely a girl screaming, and it sounds like she's screaming no. I've heard some people try to explain these screams by saying that they're partying screams, but that doesn't make any sense. And I actually kind of worry about people that can't tell that that is not the scream of someone having a good time. And even if they were partying screams, my problem is that still proves Dylan and Bethany, the surviving roommates, as liars. That means that everything they told police was not true.
Okay. What do y'all think about her statement right there? What do you think about what her statement was? Chat, do you agree with what she just said? That proved that Dylan and Bethany were liars. Everything that came out of their mouth on their interviews were lies. Because they stated that they didn't hear any screaming, right? But she said that sounded like a woman or a girl screaming no. Do y'all have any kind of variation on what that scream might have been? Could have been raccoons fighting in a dumpster. I mean, I got some raccoons downstairs, and they're always making a lot of damn noise for sure. But my question is this: this time frame was evaluated by not only the prosecutor but the defense attorney, the FBI, the ISP, and Moscow Police Department. All those people had this footage, right? And they were able to go over it. They were able to hear this, and at any point that any of them would have suggested that this was something nefarious, do not believe that they would have gone in the investigation in a different way. Because you got to believe, you got to understand, for all the people that are saying that it was corrupt, that it was something that wasn't done right. Think about the defense, okay? Because she's defending Brian. Think about the defense attorney. She didn't question any of this. She didn't want to suppress it. There wasn't any motion to eliminate, none of it. So how come this wasn't brought into any of those suppression hearings? How come this wasn't something that was wanting to be thrown out? If this was gonna, was it gonna be exculpatory? Is that what people are saying? That this is exculpatory to Brian's innocence? Is that what they're saying? I'm kind of lost. But I mean, those screams are screams, and there's countless houses around. I don't know.
They said that they got home and they had this whole little story, and Dylan's friend was with them. But supposedly it was just Dylan and Bethany and that girl. Then the girl leaves. Kaylee and Maddie come home. They're eating grub truck. And supposedly Dylan and Bethany go up and they hang out in Kaylee's room with them. Kaylee was getting ready to go to bed. And Bethany and Maddie take Murphy out to potty, but it's too cold. So Bethany comes back in and she goes to bed, and Dylan's already in bed. And Xana and Ethan were not home yet. No one else was there. That obviously is untrue because those voices are coming from the King Roadhouse. But let's keep going because I have a feeling this is already going to need a part 2. At 2:42, it sounded like a girl yelled Ethan, but very faintly. So I'm actually not sure if I'm actually hearing that, but I think I hear it. Then at 2:41, there is some yelling and screaming and what sounds like a whistle. And then it sounds like...
So once again, is there any possibility that the name Ethan could have been some other Ethan? Or just because this camera caught a semblance of a sound that this lady believes was an utterance of Ethan, is it 100% positive that was the Ethan that we know that perished? I don't think so. Hi, Blot. Thank you for being here. But she's confident. Let's hear what you got to say.
Hitting something because there's these like oohs in between. And there's a lot of yelling and it sounds like arguing to me. And I can hear a girl's voice now and then. And I think I have a clip of that. Then after all that commotion at 2:42:14, there's a big thud. Then I think I hear the main guy talking say, fuck it up or fuck you up. And about 15 milliseconds later, there's that guy's voice and then a girl screaming and multiple guys yelling. It almost sounds like the guys are yelling as she's screaming. And then at 2:42:37, there is a male scream. This scream is different from all the other yelling guys.
So let's talk about that for a second. There's a male scream. So what would that male scream be? Is she trying to say that that's Ethan? Is she trying to say that all this stuff right here is the commotion that really happened at 11:22, and that what we hear, what we've heard, what we've been told is wrong? Is that what she's saying? I'm kind of trying to piece it all together to try to make sense of what she's saying. It sounds like a lot of random creepy ass noise. It really does. Sounds like wind blowing. It sounds like a lot of, like there's something going on inside the house, but it's Saturday night. There's people drinking. There's people partying. There's people doing all kinds of stuff. But once again, this noise sounds a lot closer than the 417 noise that we hear that's been enhanced on multitudes of videos. That sound has been enhanced, and that thud and that whimpering sounds 50 feet away, like they say. I'm not trying to say this lady's wrong, but they sound really close.
As we can hear, this is a male voice screaming, and at the same time, it sounds like maybe some voices are cheering.
that weird whistling sound that you hear periodically, it's the same sound that you hear when you watch all those other videos when it's just silent. You hear that wind whistling through the camera, and that's what you hear periodically, but she's hearing some kind of commotion going on. Well, it sounds like people are partying.
I didn't realize that last part was in there too. I didn't even read it. So I had written that at 2:42:52, clearly hear a male say, stop, 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 stop. Okay, stop. Followed by a loud scream. Stop. Then more yelling. Sounds like people pleading. And I think that could be Ethan, the guy's voice yelling, stop, stop, stop. I'd really like to know if any of the victims' families have heard this new footage and if they recognize any of these voices. I have a lot more to do, so we will do all of that.
And that's a good question, because if any of the victim families had heard that, you would believe that they would recognize their own kids' sounds, you know? Let's see. Let's see what this one. I think I've seen this one. I think people are saying at this Linda Lane camera, it's Ethan and Xana at 1:20 a.m., but nobody knows where Ethan and Xana were. But we all of a sudden know where they were at 1:20. I don't understand that. The police didn't know. None of the surviving roommates knew, but we know.
Let's dive into it. Okay, so I wanted to do this video because if you go and listen to Linda Lane footage, 1330 Linda Lane, okay, that footage at 1:19 you can hear, and I don't have the whole clip up because I can't put the whole clip up, but if you guys will go and you listen at 1:19, you can hear some guy yelling Ethan. Then later on, a little bit past 1:19, you can definitely hear a girl yelling Xana, Xana. So that definitely places them close to 1330 Linda Lane at 1:20 a.m. Sigma Chi is where they are. Sigma Chi, sorry, I clearly was not in a sorority or anything like that. Sigma Chi fraternity is where the party was at on Nez Pierce. That's quite a distance. Could the Linda Lane camera have?
Let's go Ravens. Thank you. Thank you, Walt. I am a Chicago Bears fan. I'm wanting the Packers to lose. What do y'all think about this? Do y'all believe that Ethan and Xana were heard on the 1330 cam? That has been something that has been talked about for eons. There's been multitudes of creators that hear certain things being heard on these cameras. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? You think it is Ethan and Xana that people are screaming at, or is it possibly a different name?
Picked up all of that yelling and screaming? Sure, potentially yes. I don't know the length of how what this camera can pick up and not pick up.
This person's unpacking the mystery. Here we go.
Let's dive into it. Okay, I wanted to go back to this backpack because I had a revelation about this backpack. And I don't know, this is a backpack that's filled with Keystone, okay? I don't know if this is the black backpack that Jack S. had. I don't know if this is Ethan's backpack filled with beverages, because allegedly Ethan also had a bag that was filled with beverages. Now, why that would be important is if this bag is now at the house, it would lead me to believe that Ethan came back to the house with his backpack filled with beer. Now, if you were done partying for the night, then you are going to bring your beverages back home with you. If you are not done partying, you're probably not going to bring your beverages and then leave them at the house if you're planning on going to other fraternity parties. So the significance of this backpack, I believe is important. I also want to know if Jack S. inadvertently lied.
Okay, she's saying that this backpack, was it Ethan's? Did he bring the backpack with Natty Light in it? Because he was coming back to 1122 and he wasn't going back out. I don't know what that significance is. Can y'all fill me in on that? Because I don't have a clue. Is there some kind of conspiracy going on with the backpack? Because, I mean, I've heard of backpacks, but this was early on. I don't know anything about this backpack.
About the black bag filled with Keystone. Let's go back to these reports. Now, back to this ISP report where we're talking about this bag, okay? Sergeant Hopkins asked Showalter about purchasing a 30-pack of beer. Let's dive into it. Okay, I wanted to...
Okay, that one was a short one, so let's see what this one has. She says, thinking how many more conspiracy theories there will be before justice is served. I guess she really doesn't speak. Let's see what this one is. There appears to be a black car in the background. What is this? I never understand these because when I look at stuff like this, I'm like, I don't see anything people see. I really don't. Do y'all see a black car? I mean, it said lots of interesting finds today. Look in the background and in the reflections. There appears to be a black car in the background. What is this? Why is my internet going slow?
Look even closer. Someone appears to be in a Santa hat.
What is that? I saw one today that said one of the females that was going down the stairs looked like Kaylee. Let's look at this one.
Anyone who follows true crime, but just because Nancy Grace says bombshell does not mean that we have any kind of breaking news. I'm not gonna lie, I'm triggered right now over the response of the roommates' text messages in the Brian Koberger case. The amount of victim blaming of the two girls that survived that horrible, horrible night is absolutely insane. Their text messages line up exactly with the evidence, and just like they were cleared the very day of the incident. While we are talking about text messages now that match the evidence, I don't know and I don't understand. To people in the discussion groups, like Debbie detectives sitting at home that think that like literally think that Ann Taylor, the defense attorney for Brian Koberger, is watching the discussion group. Literally, you are not that important. There's going to be no new information at trial that's going to implicate these girls. It's kind of Perry Mason moment where, you know, they jump up and like, oh, we got him. I'm all for discussion groups. Like, if you want to defend Brian Koberger, come on, bring it on. Like, you know, like think like a defense attorney and like come up with some theory or whatever. But where I cannot deal with people is when they just come up with conspiracies that are not based on any type of evidence just because they want to be like controversial or argue with people. They absolutely do not think about the family members' feelings. From day one, I've not heard one member of any of the families of the victims of that crime say anything at all about the roommate. I think that if you're going to be in a discussion group, there's like should be an ethical like rule that if you're just going to come in there to like come up with crazy conspiracies and blame victims, that probably like there's like a better flat earth group for you.
Wow. Wow. Let's see what this one is. The one with the sixth roommate. I don't like that person's thoughts. We've seen that one. Let's see if I can find the one with the Kaylee. Okay. These videos trip me out too because I can never see what people see. And it's like, okay, I want to see it, but I don't see it. Freaks me out because people could say, there's 3 raccoons, 2 dead cats, and a dog chasing a squirrel. And I wouldn't be able to see it. I'm like, okay, well, what I see is trees, a hood, and some beat down grass. And it's not because I don't want to see it. I'd be anxious to see stuff if I could honestly see it. Never been able to see it from the very beginning. gonna turn it off down because, like I said, don't want to get copyrighted. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything of relevance. Oh, let's talk about the blood.
But I was there in the chats. And Birdie was playing through some of the newly released audio thanks to Jules, who does true crime stuff, even though she hates the Hive and Birdie, apparently. I'm not sure why. I really don't know a lot about her. And I find her stuff kind of dry and whatever. But great, job getting that. I'm a little shocked that they honored that FOIA request because they don't seem to do that for people like Lana. So interesting. But while he cleaned up this audio and played it, it's obviously manipulated. And during the most critical parts, there's this tinny, whistly, squealy. It almost sounds like, when a shopping cart has a shit wheel and it's like pushing through a grocery aisle, if you amplified the sound of that wheel, that's how it sounds. It sounds like when you bring...
Okay, so somebody in Hollywood got these videos and added these sound effects. Is that plausible? Is that probable? I don't know. I don't know.
Two walkie-talkies back in the day, like close together, and it makes that reverb audio sound that's like high-pitched, whistly, and screechy and squealy when you bring them close together. I can also say it kind of reminds me of when you bring two microphones too close together at points. And it also sounds a bit waterlogged, like somebody's running a sink over the audio. So
somebody's running a sink over the audio? Like what? What? What does that mean? What does that mean? Somebody is running a sink over the water. I understand what waterlog means. Not stupid. But she's making it sound like here's the audio and somebody's running water to kind of diffuse what you hear. I don't know.
On here. And it just so happens that that's occurring during the most critical times of the audio when you clearly hear something going on in the background. So I thought to myself, what are the options here? Option one, they inadvertently did that because they're using something like a signal jammer or a stingray within the vicinity of that Ring camera footage.
Oh, here we go with the stingray or a jammer. Okay, so let's go with your theory right there. Let's go with your theory, okay? I'm not an expert by no means, but I'm willing to think that if you're gonna jam cellular devices, you're gonna jam Wi-Fi as well, right? So if you're jamming everybody's cell phone because you're not wanting people to be able to somehow send their signals out, wouldn't you jam the Wi-Fi that's associated with the Ring or with the black camera? Wouldn't the black camera all of a sudden go offline because it's ran by Wi-Fi? Is that not true? Am I off point there? Y'all let me know. Y'all let me know. I would think that if something jammed the cellular devices, it jammed the Wi-Fi as well. I don't know, but I could be wrong. Y'all let me know what you think.
And if you look it up, you can do it yourself. Go to Google and Google, how does stingray devices or cell phone jammers affect Ring camera surveillance? And it'll tell you that it will cause that squealy, squeaky sound, that weird frequency sound, like two walkie-talkies being pushed together. Another
walkie-talkie put together? What? Who is this person? Y'all know who this person is? Is this girl and that Jules sisters? I don't know.
Option two would be that they knew what was happening So they purposefully, whoever was perpetrating the crime, used something like walkie-talkies or used something that would purposefully make that sound above what was happening at the time to mask it. 3, law enforcement has a narrative. That narrative doesn't match the surveillance. How they obtained that porch's surveillance is shady in itself, and that chain of custody of all that, Lana and Truth and Transparency went over this, is strange. So did they implant the audio distortions after the fact because these times don't match with the timeline that they're presenting?
Okay, let me ask you a question, whoever you are. For that one video, there was no sound forever. Okay, there was no sound. And then all of a sudden it started making sounds. So you're telling me whoever interjected these random noises, a raccoon beating on a frying pan, I don't know, whatever, somebody rolling around, a homeless person rolling around a squeaky ass wheel, a shopping cart with a squeaky wheel. I don't know. But what you're saying is, at certain times, they decided to say, okay, there's silence. When people start talking, that's when we'll start adding the random noises. And walkie-talkies were being heard to jam the sound. Water was being ran through the audio. There's a lot going on that you're saying. I mean, there's a lot that you're saying. There is a lot that you're saying right now. I don't know. I like your thoughts. Let's go with
order
it.
to make the probable cause affidavit and Brian Koberger as the lone perpetrator work? Don't know. But those are 3 options. Here's an option. Why wouldn't the defense hire a forensic audio expert to determine what type of fuckery is going on here? Because if you hire an expert, they can tell you what is manipulated, what is natural sound versus implanted sound, what is condensed, what is sped up, what is amplified.
You know what else they can do? They can go back to the previous night of recording where there was nothing going on. And they can tell at the time frame of whatever time they wanted to look at that camera, was there any random screams? Was there any wind blowing that made that sound that you're talking about? Was there any kind of weird noises that associated with the noises that were heard on the night of the murders, or the night before, or the night after? Surely not the night after, because they already had the cam footage, right? But it would have been the night before and the night before. But let's see what you got to say.
What is cut, what is edited, what is stacked. And they can easily determine that because that's their job. So who dropped the ball on the defense and didn't hire an audio expert to comb over, especially the portions of the surveillance Birdie was playing? Now, I have to admit, I don't know if Ann Taylor actually received this surveillance. We know Jules FOIA requested it and got it. Nobody has seen it until she received it. Did Ann Taylor even see this? I don't know, because we all remember.
I'm pretty sure she did, because she did have the discovery and she talked about some of the videos not having audio. So yeah, I'm sure she probably got the discovery.
Those preliminary hearings where she's asking for certain video footage and surveillance, like Red Star Coffee and other different businesses that are in the evidence log, and we see Detective Payne up on the stand acting as if he doesn't know. And Detective Payne's acting as if he just doesn't have the slightest clue. I know I see this surveillance written on a piece of paper, but I'm sure the evidence ... will have it, but I'm not exactly sure. I'm sorry, sir, did you run this investigation? Point being is that I don't know if Ann Taylor even got this audio, because if she did, it's wild incompetence not to hire a defense expert to determine what kind of manipulation, because there's
I'm glad we got that little bit of insight from you, whoever you are. I don't know who you are. This is one I've always heard. The PCA was a lie.
Newly released crime scene photos of the King Road house and the Idaho 4 case show a heavy presence of amino black substance, which is used to identify.
And it's not called amino, it's called amido black. Okay?
Biologicals, mostly blood, and it's present in the living room, kitchen, and in one of the stairwells, which shows that the struggle was not contained to the 2 bedrooms of the victims, but rather it is everywhere. Yes, folks, check this out.
So let me ask you a question, okay? The fact that they were investigating this crime, okay? They were investigating this crime. Anywhere where there was blood spotted, where there was old blood, where there was new blood, where there was blood from the crime, you were looking at various locations. Wouldn't it be viable that you would put amido black looking for any kind of blood spatter in the kitchen, in the living room, down the stairwells, anywhere where the perpetrator could have exited, entered, or even gone by? Would that not have been a viable option, yes or no? Let's see what she says.
See how the kitchen was before, then they cleaned off the counters and sprayed the amino black, and it is everywhere, which shows the presence of a cleanup. This, my friends, is all biological. So the amino black is showing you where the biological is showing up, and you can see there's spatter everywhere, and it's dripping down the counters, and it even goes into the sink, which could show a presence of someone washing up in the kitchen sink, but it's near the dishwasher, it's coming down the cabinets.
So you're saying he did a load of dishes before he left, or as he was coming by the kitchen? What do you think? I mean, I really don't understand your point there, you know? Okay. So I think she was saying that there was a cleanup. This is proof that there was a cleanup. So let's see.
My friends, is only used if you suspect that the crime scene was somewhere over here and there would be biologicals. So they checked all this, the whole area of the kitchen, which to me is a hot spot. I think one of the crimes occurred in the kitchen, and then that would suggest a major cleanup. Now here is
A major cleanup. Okay, so you know, I've done videos in the past about what crime scenes look like after blood has been cleaned up, or, you know, bleach and stuff like that. I've had multitudes of people on my panel that were talking about this with me on one night. So you might go check that out if you want to see what a blood cleanup looks like. I don't see any relevance of a blood cleanup in this kitchen. Otherwise, they would have found it, because there was a lot of people all over this area right here, as we saw in photos, in white hazmat suits that were obviously looking for evidence. So they would have found it. They would have found evidence of a cleanup. Whether there was or whether there wasn't, I can't for say be one way or the other, because I was not there. But I'm just saying that, you know, if there was, what was the reason for it not being disclosed?
kitchen before the amino black, before you could test to see if there's biologicals. And look what we have here. Folks, that is insane. It's all the way in the doorway there. You could see it. I mean, this is crazy. On the floor, I mean, this is showing a heavy presence, and even on the door handle.
Well, didn't Brian go outside the door? I mean, doesn't that make sense that there would be hits on that door, around that door, because if he rubbed against it, if he was going in a fast pace, could have slung off of him, right? I don't know, unless he was wrapped in a shower curtain, draped in a cape. I don't know.
which would suggest that maybe they exited that way, or I don't know, they came back. I mean, because it's on both sides of the door handle and then it's also on the railing. Now, this part we knew because it was in the court documents that there was an unknown male source of DNA left on the banister in the King Roadhouse. But we
So why is that such a mysterious thing to people? Unknown source. People are quick to say, yes, this was a party house. There's multitudes of people going in and out. But you find an unknown source of DNA, meaning that that DNA wasn't in CODIS. It wasn't associated or investigated any further other than being in CODIS, probably. And people are shocked that this person was not looked at as a suspect in this crime. What makes you so shocked that there would be an unknown DNA anywhere around that house? With all the multitudes of people that were in that residence at any particular time. Any photo that we've seen of them having get-togethers with random older people, I mean, I'm sure they didn't swab everybody that they saw in those photos or videos or anything like that. There was multitudes of people in that home. What shocks people so much that they found unknown DNA on the banister? Because most people, when they go down stairs that are as steep as those, they grab the rail. Do they not? Let's be honest. Do they not grab the railing? Yes or no? Chat, can you tell me yes or no? So would you not potentially rub some sweat, skin cells? Hell, you could have got a wood splinter on you and it bled a little bit and it got on the banister. How come that's so hard to understand? How come that has to be associated with an alternative suspect? How come that has to be somebody associated if that's the only? I mean, they found other unknown DNA, right? But wouldn't you believe that if you found one and you found another one and these two didn't match, that they weren't associated at the same time at the same place? So if you found one, you'd find that other one unknown in bedroom number 2, right? When you find multitudes of unknowns in bedroom number 3, I would believe so. I mean, yeah, under the fingernail clipping, there's unknown DNA. I mean, I would believe that it would be shocking. And that's what I'm saying as far as the cleanup. It would be shocking to me that if it was cleaned up, they wouldn't have found any of this DNA. Because look at how Brian cleaned his car. They didn't even find his dad's DNA in the car, supposedly. They didn't find very little, in the car, and he cleaned that up. So when you believe that if they found multiple DNA that were unknown, these were just unknown, and these DNA samples were not in the rooms, that's why they're not perpetrators. That's why they're not suspects. Because they weren't, even under the fingernails, was there any on the body? Because if they were under the fingernails, there would have been the same type of DNA found on the body. Was that DNA found on the knife sheath? Because if it's unknown, then you don't know whose it is. So was there any unknown found on the knife sheath that would have matched the other unknown? There would have been multitudes of matching up stuff. You get what I'm saying? But that's just my thinking. I'm not saying one way or the other, Let's keep going.
Weren't really sure which stairwell it was. If it was the bottom one, it was going to the second floor, third floor. This one is going up to the second floor to the living room. Yes, folks. So you can see there's a heavy presence of biologicals. And so that means the crimes were not contained in the bedrooms. There was a struggle outside of the bedrooms, and we were lied to. The narrative, no shock there, was not what we were told. Newly released.
Okay. That was interesting. Let's see what this one is.
The similarities between this ritual and what happened.
No, I'm not going to play that dude's stuff. Not going to play his stuff either. You notice I put conspiracy and how many creators that we see on YouTube automatically popped up. It's like TikTok knows. See what this one is about the Elantra.
The Idaho 4 case is even darker than we thought. A chilling new ring camera detail has just resurfaced, and if it's real, it changes everything. But what really happened that night? Here's the full story, and here's why people are calling this the scariest crime of the decade. Yo, November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernoodle, and Ethan Chapin were brutally unalived in their home. No forced entry, no signs of struggle, just a crime so gruesome that even police were shaken. For weeks, the case went cold until a disturbing simulation of that night started circulating online. It showed how the unaliver could have moved through the house in under 20 minutes, slipping past 2 surviving roommates without them even knowing. But here's where it gets terrifying. A ring camera from a nearby house allegedly captured a...
I mean, he slipped by 2 surviving roommates. Is it far-fetched to believe that people may or may not know what's going on around their neighborhoods? I mean, think about where you are right now. If you're watching this, you're in the chat. Do you hear noises in your neighborhood? Or are you like, you live in the country where there's not a lot of people, there's not a lot of yelling, not a lot of partying? And if you live in the city or in a closed environment like this 1122 house was, do you hear a lot of random noises that you don't know what they are? Not necessarily in your home, but do you hear them outside your residence? Do you hear screaming every now and then? Here we hear gunshots all night long. But, you know, there you heard whatever.
Scream and the sound of a door closing. This footage is still debated. Was it real or just speculation? Then came the biggest twist. A witness inside the house saw the suspect face to face, a tall man in black wearing a mask, walking right past her before disappearing into the night. But the scariest part, people are still asking why. Was it random or something more disturbing? Yo, comment your theories down below. Do you believe the ring camera evidence?
Okay.
Let's talk about the latest clip circulating because Jesus is this stupid.
This is character analysis, I believe.
That's supposedly 2 people running from that house, one of them chasing the other. Now let's watch the actual clip. Nobody was.
Was that the person's shadow? That was the person's shadow, right? And people have been saying that 2 people chasing, one chasing the other?
Running from that house. The first clip was intentionally sped up to make it look like people were running from the house. When people show you clips like this, but there's no timestamp, there's usually a reason. Always ask for a timestamp. That way you can go and watch it yourself. Don't forget the latest character analysis podcast episode is out.
I like her on YouTube. Let's see what else we can find on the Idaho stuff. Oh, here's the one. Here's the one right here.
40 minutes after the following sound, two neighbors living in the 1112 house with the porch cam next to 1122 King Road took their car and drove away at 3:23 a.m. in the morning. The interesting part is when they came back, they were dropped off by someone else. So where is their car, or why is someone else driving their car? And there is no audio.
Somebody was saying that this is Kaylee. They were saying that that is Kaylee right there that went over that went over at 3:30.
So we don't know what they're talking about. At 5 a.m.
5:16.
16 in the morning. 7 hours later, a resident of the same house rushed over to Jack D's house while the police was already there. Came back with two girls and something covered in her hand with the blanket she got with her at first. 26 minutes later, two girls left again and went over to the opposite house. 2 minutes later, two persons came out of this house with trash bags and threw them into the dumpster. 8 minutes later.
Wow, what was in those trash bags? Does anybody believe that there could have been trash in those trash bags? I like this guy's voice, like how he does the voice change. It's pretty cool. That's the only reason I watch his stuff. But I mean, all the other stuff with the little pipe cleaner thing. But have y'all seen this? Let me rewind it. Here we go.
40 minutes after the following sound, two neighbors living in the 1112 house with the porch cam next to 1122 King Road took their car and drove away at 3:23 a.m. in the morning. The interesting part is when they came back, they were dropped off by someone else.
So if that was Kaylee that they're saying, because I saw this on somebody else's today, they are saying that that is Kaylee going down the steps at 3-something in the morning. Why would she drive somebody else's car? Why wouldn't she go drive her own Range Rover? Answer me that. Why would she drive somebody else's car and then come back and be dropped off by a random vehicle? Tell me that.
So where is their car, or why is someone else driving their car? And there is no audio, so we don't know what they're talking about. At 5 a.m. 16 in the morning. 7 hours later, a resident of the same house rushed over to Jack D's house while the police was already there. Came back with two girls and something covered in her hand with the blanket she got with her at first. 26 minutes later, two girls left again and went over to the opposite house. 2 minutes later, two persons came out of this house with trash bags and threw them into the dumpster. 8 minutes later, someone from the direction of Jack D's house is checking the dumpster and disappeared behind Jack D's house.
Okay. What do y'all think about that? Mm-hmm. Tell me what y'all think. Why won't it let me play this?
First records of details into the Idaho murders. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Like I'm literally like my heart rate is elevated after reading this. So again, trigger warning. These are graphic details that up until now have been sealed. So we're just going to go through them. As mentioned today, when the police gave the press conference, they did say that Kaylee had been stabbed 34 times and that another victim had been stabbed more. In my last video, I said I assumed it was Xana, and it was. She was stabbed 50 times with a K-bar. which is basically the version of a handheld machete. Now, going back to Kaylee's injuries, it stated that Kaylee had a pierced lung, a damaged liver, and a severed artery behind her collarbone. Then they go on to speak about her face. They said that Kaylee was unrecognizable, that she had massive damage to her face. First,
Okay. So that goes with what I wanted to show you guys, and tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about what you just heard. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Do you think that there's a lot of people that really believe this stuff based on what they hear? Do you think that really there is ever going to be a debunking of all this stuff that's going to convince people that what we've been told, what we've seen, what we've heard in documents, videos, all that stuff, it's really going to, one day somebody's going to wake up and be like, you know what? I was wrong. Koberger is guilty. Or do you believe that people are honestly going to still be fighting for his innocence from years to come? Let me ask y'all a question right quick before I sign off. Please chat and please give me your answers in the chat. How much longer do you think that people are going to talk about this case? Give me months, give me years, decades. What do you think? Put your answer in the chat. Let me know what you think. You think people are going to ever let it go? Do you think they're going to be able to say, let's move on with something else? Or do you believe that people are, okay, I like that. I like that. Anybody else? Y'all believe that this case will ever fade away? If they're still trying to prove his innocence this long after he pled, I don't think they will ever quit. Possibly not. I mean, we've had other high-profile cases that have came and went since this case ended, and still it's not enough to put people on a different path. You know? But only time will tell. And the only reason that I did anything tonight was because I've been on TikTok watching this stuff, and I thought that I would entertain some of you with some of the stuff that is actually over there if you don't watch TikTok, because it obviously people have their opinion over there as well. And hopefully Stephanie from TikTok will be over on the channel with me, and we'll be able to do like an interview process together. We'll be able to hear what she thinks about the legality of it all. Because, like I said, she is a defense attorney, and he could die at 99, and there will still be my grandparents spent years defending this man. Wow, that is a hell of a statement, and you're so right. You're so right. You're so right on that. Well, I appreciate everybody coming in here. Hopefully you will join me on other true crime avenues that I am presenting. I know they're not Idaho 4, but I appreciate some of you that are in here tonight to join me on other lives. You're more than welcome to be here. Please hit a like, subscribe, and share. If you're not a subscriber, hopefully you enjoy what you saw. There's plenty in the library about this case. Go help yourself and indulge in everything leading up to the plea. Once again, my name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. Those of you in chat, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you soon. Maestro, cue that music.
They say we living fast, but what they really mean is we're running from something. The streets got stories, cold ones, berry ones, and now I hear truth don't sleep. I seen good men lose their way, killers turn to ghosts, injustice. Take too long to answer the call, but this
is 12 Gauge and it's
where every case pleads true.
every file got a heartbeat.
And every cold trail still got smoke rising.
We talking about living fast, dying young, but fighting to live right now.
Cause legends don't fade. They echo through the evidence, through the crime scenes, through every voice that never got heard. This ain't entertainment, it's real life reloaded.
Welcome to 12 Gauge and it's